Hi, my name is Avery Volk, and my solo show, Girl in Reverse, A Feminine Rage Manifesto, is going to be premiering at the Zephyr Theater in Los Angeles on Thursday, December 14th at 8 p.m. as part of the Soaring Solo Star series. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to write about sexuality and relationships in your solo show. When this journey began for me, it was 2020. That is when I had the experiences that I talk about in my solo show. And that is also when I began actively journaling and writing poetry. Because these experiences I had were so powerful and painful and so profoundly transformational that I just had such a strong impetus to write about them because I had to give the thoughts and feelings and emotions I was having a place to exist outside of myself. And I was not only journaling, but I was free writing. I was doing a lot of free writing. And some days it would just be writing in a physical journal. Other days it would just be, I'd be in my car and I would just pull out my phone and start hammering away on my notes app. And then I started noticing that my writing was taking on this very poetic tone, rather unintentionally. So then I started asking the question of, well, what if this isn't just for me? What if I want to share this with people? What if I could turn this into poetry? And then it became about some days I'd write 2 lines, some days I'd write 3, 5, 7, 10. And then over time, I would figure out how I wanted to culminate all of it into one complete piece. Then I started performing spoken word poetry. And then I, fortunately, was the acting program that I was studying in at the time ran a solo theater development workshop. So I just came in with this 1 page amoeba skeleton of notes and doodles of this is what I want my show to be about. These are the themes. This is what I want to talk about. But how am I going to turn this into a show? And when it began, a lot of it had this very narrative prose sort of tone. So then it became about figuring out how to elevate that into theatrical storytelling. One of the writing exercises that my coach gave us was writing from your organs, consisting of free writing from your eyes, your ears, your heart, your genitals, basically asking the question of, if this part of me could speak, what would it say? And that was very effective. Free writing in itself is such a powerful tool because it is that just completely raw, dirty, ugly truth coming out of you that you just vomit onto a page. And a lot of that, honestly, is still to this day how I write. That's how I write my poetry a lot of the time. And that is a lot of what's in my show. It's just straight from my journal. And then as we moved along and as this was being shaped and molded into a show, another thing that my coach gave us was he said, write the thing you're afraid to write the scene you're afraid to write the thing that makes you most uncomfortable. And it became more and more about leaning into the discomfort, especially when the elements, these very sexual aspects of the story would come up. And I'd be like, oh my God, this is so awkward to say out loud. And then I started noticing just how relatable so much of it was. And also just how inherently bizarre and comedic a lot of it was. As the cliche saying goes, the truth is stranger than fiction, and that was absolutely true. Because there are some things in here that are just like, I honestly think they almost sound made up, but they're not. These are things that really happened. These are words that other humans really said. And they just happen to make for a great story. And then I started noticing, as I was telling the story and performing it and shaping it and molding it, what was happening in my body. How was my body responding to it? And that really helped me to get out of my head, because a lot of the time I was in my head and I was having that terrible nagging voice saying, well, who really cares? Who really wants to hear the story? Who would really want to watch this story? And then it turns out a lot of people, because more often than not, so much of what's in our stories is so extremely relatable. And I also started noticing how much I was thinking about the fact that, for me, I feel that a lot of so much of what's in the female sexual experience, so much of a woman's sexual desire, is unsayable. And what I mean by that is just impossible to put into words. So then another helpful exercise that my coach gave us was tell the story without words. Tell the story with your body. Tell the story silently for 1 minute, 5 minutes. And then those kinds of exercises really helped me to develop a lot of the story too, and operate from a place of not up here, but in here, down here. And the more I started doing that, the more confident I became, and it really helped to develop a lot of the different aspects of myself and my characters. And then, as we often do, as solo artists, we ask the question of, what if this thing was a character? So I asked myself, what if my sexuality, what if my sexual desire was a character? And it turned into this character that I call Hellbeast, which is like the demonic personification of my sexual desire. And then taking that and kind of marrying it to the unsayable element of sexual desire, it turned part of this character, or part of her, well, my transformation into this character is a dance. It's that part at which it transcends language, and then figuring out, what does that look like when it's no longer spoken word. So it has been a hell of a journey. It's been a wild ride, and it's taken so much work to get here, but it's been absolutely worth it. And I hope that you will join me to bear witness to my story.